Honkity dorkity. Here comes my morkity. I don't know what the fuck that was. Don't ask. Wasn't my great moment. Today I'm at it with another scary video because you guys just eat this shit up. I don't know why you guys are just weird. Maybe you have a fetish for creepy shit. I'm not sure. You know, I ain't judging. I'm just saying you guys are fucking weird. So we're back at it again with 21 horror stories. We're not gonna go through all 21 because that's an hour of footage, and I don't feel like doing that again. If you want an hour of footage, then go fuck yourself. All credit of this video goes to Wansi Entertainment.
It was 15 years ago. When I was 11 years old, I used to live with my uncle, who was 31 years old at the time. He took me away from my family, telling them how great I would be if I stayed with him in his farmhouse. Well, he actually had a really nice farmhouse. However, that was totally fake. He also had a big van that he used to kidnap kids in. He usually abducted lost kids or the kids who were playing in the parks. Yeah, right. He was such a serious kidnapper and murderer. While he was tying up the children after the kidnapping, he ordered me to dig a hole for each one. Of course, I didn't want to do that. I was just horrified and scared of my uncle. One day, I stayed with the kids.
What's the point? Why would he just kidnap him and kill him? Like, you don't get anything out of it? I'm not saying, you know, do stuff with the children like that, stuff that will probably get you arrested. But what's the point? If you're getting in trouble and you get nothing out of it, I don't understand the point.
Inside the basement to monitor them. Crying, they were begging to let them go. I could see that some of the kids were almost the same age as my age, so I untied them and let them sneak out by the back door so my uncle couldn't see them. He was in the kitchen sharpening his knives. I returned to the kitchen acting like nothing happened, but somehow when he lifted his head, he noticed through the window that they were running away. He got mad, grabbed his gun, and then he ran out the door trying to shoot them.
Oh, God.
I immediately ran with him, watching them and hoping that they could manage it. And all of the kids succeeded to run away, fortunately. I could see that one of them even waved to me to say goodbye. My uncle told me not to worry and that he'd get more kids the next morning. It seemed like that he was thinking that I was the one who was disappointed about the kids' escape or whatever. The next morning, I woke up and figured out that he was not there. And all of a sudden, I heard a loud siren, and soon after, the police entered inside the farmhouse. They found me and asked me if I was one of those kids who was kidnapped by him. I couldn't lie to him. I always felt sorry for lots of kids who got kidnapped by him. So I told them that I was his nephew, and they took me with them for questioning. I was crying so badly when I confessed the truth about him to the police. It was the hardest moment that I had to give proof of my uncle's serious crime, because I loved him anyway, whether he's a criminal or not. But I knew this day would come, and actually, I was waiting for it. They didn't believe me at first, but I revealed the location of the holes to them. After digging, the police found bodies under the ground. At that time, my uncle got back to my mother's house, hugged her, and begged to stay for a while. However, the police had already told her about the incident and what had happened to me.
I would not.
So she told him he could stay, but as soon as he got to the bathroom to shower, she alerted Dad and they called the police. My uncle was arrested finally, and the police thanked me and told me that I was such a brave kid.
Yeah.
They brought me back to my parents, and I could have a better life with them.
Sucker.
My uncle was charged with kidnapping, murdering kids, and even showing me such terrible things that kids should not see.
Yeah, it's like a life sentence right there.
He was condemned to death, and not long after, finally hanged.
It must be legal in their country then. Damn. Or city, whatever.
My name is Jonathan. I live in an average apartment. There are main roads via my apartment, but there's also a shortcut too, which makes it faster to go to one of my friends, Nick's house. However, the weird thing was that nobody uses the road. I didn't know until I saw something on it that very day. One day, I went to visit Nick as usual.
PS1? Right there. Was that a PS1?
House. However, the weird thing was that nobody uses the road. I didn't know until I saw something on it that very day.
Is that a PS1 right there? That looks like a PS1. That looks like a DVD player. What is he playing on the PS1 right there? Are you playing Fortnite on the PS1? I don't know how the hell he's doing that.
One day, I went to visit Nick as usual. We played some kinds of games together in his house, having snacks.
No Fortnite.
The outside had become dark, and when I looked at the time, it was almost 10 p.m. Then my mom called me to get back home as soon as possible. She seemed like she got mad, so I packed my stuff quickly. I got out of my friend's house, walked for like 2 minutes, and then I decided to walk through that shortcut lane this time. Because it was completely dark, it gave me a chill, but I was in a rush. So I lighted my phone's flash and walked through the road. It was a straight road, and all the leaves and bushes were on the two sides. And the next moment became the most terrible memory for my entire life. While I was walking alone, my phone's battery suddenly died. Holy crap, I mumbled to myself. But at that moment, I was so freaked out. I made my pace quicker when I heard someone's footsteps. When I looked up, there was a figure in front of me that was almost black and invisible. All lampposts in that road were broken except 2 of them. But those 2 lampposts were flickering continuously, and the figure was slowly walking closer to my side. When the light fell on his face, I could see him, full of scars on his face. He had a cut in his throat, and the blood is falling out of his cut. I tried to ask him if he needed any help, but then he put his hand on top of his head slowly, and he picked it up. I could see his head was dividing from his body, and he was just standing there, holding his head in one hand and looking straight into my eyes. I couldn't even move because I was so terrified at that moment. All of a sudden, his head was laughing loudly and gave a shriek loudly at the very next. I stepped back, and then he came in front of me again with big strides. This time, I could see those 2 lampposts which were flickering above him all went out. And I don't remember anything after that.
Must be the devil.
The next morning when I woke up, I was in a hospital. It turned out that some guy who was jogging around found me unconscious on that road. My mother was sitting next to me with an anxious look, so I told her my entire experience. When I finished telling her, she seemed a little surprised, and then she patted my back. She told me that there was a man who was murdered and beheaded by some gang members on that road a few years ago, but the police could neither find his head nor the criminal. Since then, lots of people saw the same stuff as me, so they stopped using that road. Even now, whenever I go to my home, I still ignore that frightening road and take another long path. It would always make my heart sink just thinking about that incident itself. My name is Alan, and this happened a year ago. I was at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport and about to check in, going to Dubai. I was standing in the line to check in when I noticed that someone was staring at me. It was a girl. She seemed like an ordinary girl at first, but then I noticed that her eyes were odd. They were open, very wide. She was smiling at me, but her smile was kind of annoying and crooked. I got creeped out, so after I was finished checking in, I quickly went through immigration and headed to the flight gates. Before going to the gates, I stopped at the restroom, and while I was urinating there, I could hear someone faintly whispering outside. I could tell that it was a girl's voice. When I finally walked outside, I encountered the same girl who I had met at the check-in line. She was just standing there. But then, I saw scissors in her pocket. I quickly pushed her, ran away, and hid from her for a while.
Bro, it's a little girl.
30 minutes later, I barely arrived at the gate.
It's like 90 pounds.
And guess who arrived at the gate? Right, the same girl was there again. She was literally stalking me the whole time. Right then, I was terrified. So when we started boarding, I made sure that I didn't make eye contact with her at all. Fortunately, my seat was apart from hers, so at least I felt a little relieved during the flight. But this story didn't end there.
No shit.
When I arrived in Dubai, I quickly got out of the airport and headed to the currency exchange counter. While I was exchanging my money, I looked around several times, but there was no sign of her anywhere. I quickly grabbed my money, but the moment I turned around, my heart dropped. The same girl whom I'd met at the airport was there. She was staring at me, holding scissors. But this time, she started twitching bizarrely. Her smile became bigger and even scarier, and she was walking toward me, closer and closer. It was almost 2 a.m., and there was nobody else around in that area. I had no choice but to run, so I dashed quickly away and started searching for a taxi to get to the train station. Just then, I realized that the girl started to speed up to chase after me. Luckily, I narrowly found one taxi, and when I got in, it was a sigh of relief. When I glanced out the back window, the girl was standing there and was staring straight into my eyes. After 2 weeks, I went back to Manila. Of course, I didn't see her anymore after that night.
She's right there.
However, the memory of that girl has been haunting me to this day. I haven't been able to forget her face.
Man, I'm saying, if it was a little girl, she's like 90 pounds, just bitch slap her and you're good. Just saying. I don't want to hit a little girl, but bitch, if they does that shit, I will. I will knock a motherfucker out. Just saying. That's all I'm saying.
This is about a dream I had when I was in middle school. In my dream, I was standing in a huge empty space with other people, and I could see the dim light from afar. In fact, behind us, there were some strange people coming after us. They were chasing after us, walking on all fours, catching and eating people. Each person ran quickly towards the light. I was frightened by those strange beings chasing me from behind, but for some reason...
See, when you're in a dream, you have two options. Run away. Like, if you're in a dream like that, you have two choices. Run away, which is never really the option, or die. Now, I prefer dying, because I'd rather get it over with and relive it longer than it has to be. And when you die, I mean, you get scared when you wake up. You're like, hey, it was a dream. I'm good.
I couldn't move my legs to run. However, at one point, I suddenly realized it was a dream and felt at ease. It's a dream. I was standing there, and at that moment, a man in his 30s who was running just stopped next to me. Are you dreaming too? The moment the man spoke to me, I got goosebumps. How could it be possible to meet another person in a dream? While we were standing still looking at each other, the people behind us suddenly attacked us. At that moment, I woke up screaming.
Was that a story?
In my whole 26 years of existence, I only have one dream that I vividly remember. It's about a nightmare that I had when I was in the 8th grade. Although I can't remember the whole story, the last moment still gives me a chill to this day. So, I was being chased by someone on a mountain along with some other guy in this dream. I could feel how I was gasping for
Hold on. Can you say that one more time? Because you said someone was chasing.
grade. Although I can't remember the whole story, the last moment still gives me a chill to this day. So, I was being chased by someone on a mountain.
You hear that? I caught her on her bullshit. Being chased by someone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Since when did fucking 10 people become one?
mountain along with some other guy in this dream. I could feel how I was gasping for air and the pain on both of my legs. I was about to give up on running. However, all of a sudden, the man suddenly grabbed my shoulder and told me to run away and live. Furthermore, he already knew my name. That was the weirdest moment. As soon as he finished what he was saying, the man who was chasing after us appeared from behind and smashed his head in heavily. And that's when I woke up. Being afraid, I noticed that I had been bleeding on both sides of my nose when I woke up. It was about 5 a.m. I woke up my mom and talked about the dream. I know that it was just a dream, but I kept feeling uncomfortable, so I told my family to be careful. To my surprise, I heard that my uncle died the next day. He just died abruptly, even though he wasn't sick at all. At that moment, when I heard that from my dad, I got goosebumps. Well, of course, it's just a coincidence, but who knows?
Damn.
This story is about the creepiest dream I've ever had.
Fucking dream.
In my dream, I was in middle school and inside of a classroom. All of a sudden, I noticed that my classmates were rambling on. They said that demons had invaded our school and that they could change into humans, like monsters from one of those Korean horror movies. Some of my friends were gathering around each other, putting their heads together to come up with a plan. They wanted to figure out a way to exorcise the demons. All the doors were locked. I was standing in the classroom with an anxious look on my face. However, the moment they suddenly knocked was the moment I realized that I was dreaming. Hey, isn't this a dream? It's just a dream. When I asked them while laughing, they all turned around and looked at me with empty eyes, and then I couldn't believe what I heard. You might be, but we are not. That was the last memory.
Were you dead?
A few years ago, my mom, my younger sister, and I went out for dinner at a local restaurant one night. As we were walking on the sidewalk towards the restaurant, I noticed a man walking towards us from the opposite direction. Well, I can say that this was normal, but there was sort of a creepy vibe about him. He looked like he was in his mid-50s. He was tall and had a dirty beard. He was also bald.
Dude? He wanted to act up. No, go back.
But there was sort of a creepy vibe about him. He looked like he was
Look at him. Look at those pink ass cheeks, bro. He looked like he just got kissed. Mwah, mwah, bro. He blushing.
in his mid-50s. He was tall and had a dirty beard. He was also bald. Anyway, we
Don't insult the bald man.
walked inside the restaurant, and the waiter led us to a table. Then, a few minutes later, the same man from the sidewalk walked in and sat at a table close to ours, which was so uncomfortable. I thought this was weird, but when our meals came out, I just swept away any doubts about him. While we were eating, I noticed that he was staring at me the whole time. I tried to ignore him.
He wanted to slash, gash, cut a hole in that ass.
When my sister and I were almost finished eating, the waiter came up to us and said to my mom, "Ma'am, don't worry, your bill has been paid." My mom was confused and asked him what he meant, and he said that the man who was sitting next to our table had offered to pay the bill for us. Although this was a cheap restaurant, my mom refused the offer and explained that she
Hold on. Do you see the food? There is a steak on top of There is lettuce on the bottom of the steak, and it looks like a gourmet food. This place
was creeped out by that
is
man.
expensive.
The waiter
There is pillars, so many glass. He's wearing a tuxedo. You're telling me this is a cheap? You must be rich as hell if you think that's cheap. Jesus Christ, bitch.
Sue nodded and went to go get our bill. When he left, the man slowly walked towards us, opened a strange duffel bag he was carrying, and pulled out 2 stuffed animals. The shapes of the stuffed animals were totally crushed, and I didn't realize that it was an animal at first. It was the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen in my life. My heart started beating faster.
Oh, maybe he just wants to sell his collection of stuffed animals. Like, come on. Leave the man alone. Sheesh, you're so rude.
When he came
He offered to pay your bill. You refused it because you're... Wait, this place is cheap because it doesn't have good pillows. He comes up and then he just wants to give you some stuffed animals and you're like, oh my god, that's disgusting. I don't deal with that poor shit. You little bitch. I would just take the stuffed animal and say thank you. Yeah, that's a little bit weird. I would just take it and say thank you, sir. And then we'd be on our merry fucking way. But no, we gotta be look at her face, huh? Look at that. No, she about to throw up on his face. Dude, look at that smile, dude.
our table and gave the stuffed animals to me and my sister. Being a 5-year-old girl, my sister was going to say yes, but my mom and I both interrupted and refused.
Ew, no, I don't want that. Poor shit.
Then the man didn't say a word.
He offered to pay your bill. You refused. He wanted to give you stuffed animal. You refused. Of course that's gonna make someone mad.
He walked back to his table and sat down. After the waiter came back with our bill, my mom explained what just happened. The waiter said that the man paid for his meal, so it wasn't possible to kick him out. However, the waiter said that he would follow us out of the restaurant to make sure everything was okay. Later that night, when we came back home, I tried to fall asleep, but it was hard to close my eyes because I was still feeling uncomfortable. I just laid there, and when I looked at the clock, it was around 2 a.m. All of a sudden, I heard someone walking outside my window. It was the fall season, so all the dead leaves would make loud crunching sounds whenever someone walked on them. At first, I assumed that it might have been some type of animal. However, I abruptly remembered the man from the restaurant and began to feel scared. The sound of footsteps was getting closer, and I shut my eyes as tight as
Closer and closer and closer
as I possibly could. Knock, knock, knock. I heard someone knock on my window 3 times. Slowly, I froze. I knew that it was a red flag and that I shouldn't open my eyes. But I opened my eyes cautiously. Then my heart dropped. The man
He looking for something, bro. Look
at the restaurant was peeking through my window.
Oh, don't do that shit. Don't lick your dirty ass lips.
With his glaring eyes, his eyes were fixed on me and looked me up and down. I couldn't scream at all. I just laid there, praying that it must be a dream. However, he didn't do any harm to me. He just stood there watching me and then walked away after a while. I didn't get any sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I explained to my mom what happened yesterday, and she called the police right away. However, although the police searched all over the area, they couldn't find him.
He's right there. He's right there. This man and this man are blind bitches. He's right here. Bald. Has that weird shitty hair. Fucking shit. Weird, bro. Come on.
They didn't know who that creeper was or what he wanted,
Oh, yeah,
but I'll never forget that night.
Fuck.
My name is Eric. I'm 31 years old, as well as a single dad living in a one-story house with my son, named Alex. It all started the night before Christmas, when Alex was 5 years old. Alex was so excited, so we decided to go for a walk around our town. We were walking down our road, listening to the sound of carolers in the distance.
Oh, motherfucker. Jesus Christ, dude. He's a tall-ass bitch. What is he, in Limnix?
That led us all the way down to the main street.
Oh my God.
When we came face to face with the three old women singing, I took out my phone trying to record a story for my Instagram, just like other people around us.
Yeah.
When I looked down, I saw my son covering his ears. I stopped recording, crouched down, and asked him what was wrong, but he didn't answer. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see the middle woman of the three carolers was giving my son an evil grin with a large, creepy smile. She seemed a little bit weird. Well, it was a chilly December night, so I decided we would head back anyway. When we reached home, my son looked relieved. So I thought he just wanted to go watch TV and catch up on his episode he thought that he might miss.
Like every child
Later,
in
as
the
I was
world.
cooking in the kitchen, I took a glance at my son, and I could see that he looked absolutely terrified. He was sitting straight up on the couch, which faced the TV. There was a large window next to the couch that had the curtains slightly open.
That's not
Then he
slightly-
sprinted up quickly.
Bro, that's not slightly opened. I don't know what
I
kind
took
of
a glance at my
TV
son,
you're on,
and
but that's not
Which-
that's not slightly opened. It's open all the fucking way up. What are you
Faced the
talking
TV.
about?
There was a large window next to the couch that had the curtains slightly open.
Slightly open. That's not
Then he
slightly open.
sprinted up quickly, ran to me, and just hugged my leg. "Daddy, she's here," he told me with a shivering voice. And I replied, "Who?"
Bitch.
He exclaimed back, "The middle woman we saw when we watched the caroling." I quickly looked at the window, and there really was that old lady we saw not too long ago.
Bro, she's
I closed my eyes for about 1 second, and when I opened my eyes again,
bad.
she completely vanished. Being freaked out, I called 911 naturally, telling them about what had just happened. There were 3 cops that showed up, so I explained the incident to them again. And one of the cops showed me a photograph that looked kind of old to me.
What the fuck? What is that? These are not cops. Where are your badges? Just decided to wear gray uniforms today? Jesus Christ.
She was in there. Then she pointed to that old lady, asking if this was her, and I answered yes. She started laughing. My son looked confused until I asked why she was laughing. She stopped and gave us a kind of serious look this time, but was still smiling. Then she said, "Hey, you know what? I know this is weird, but this woman died 3 years ago on this exact same day." My heart dropped.
Why?
That's
would
when my
you
son looked
show
terrified.
the picture. If she died that exact same day, and you showed him where the fuck did you get the picture? Why would you say, "Is this her? Is this the woman that died a few years back today?" What? How? That does not make any sense. What kind of fucking Jesus?
Too. I tried to calm him down, but I couldn't believe what was going on. The other 2 cops came inside and said they found no trace of anything while searching. It made no sense. When the cops had left our house, I put my son into his bed and went to my room. I turned the light on my nightstand that was close to the side, grabbed my phone, and decided to check Instagram, thinking that if I could find anything, I would just call the cops back. I opened my story, and to my surprise, I couldn't find that old lady in there. I checked another story, and then checked another again. But in fact, it was just 2 women there singing. Feeling mixed emotions like scared, mad, and even more, stupid, I started checking some other people's stories from around my neighborhood. And still, she wasn't there. But all of a sudden, I realized something. When I was checking some story feeds, I ran into one story of some woman who was standing right next to me during the caroling. where my son and I should have been standing was replaced by nothing. It was like we weren't even there from the beginning. I couldn't believe what I'd just seen. I put a hand over my mouth and couldn't say anything. That night, that Christmas day became the most terrible moment for us. Well, I'm 33 now, and my son is now 7 years old. But even if everybody thinks that it doesn't sound true at all, we both still remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh my god, I'm scared of that, you fucking whore.
Look at us, lower decks, breaching protocol together.
Don't do that shit to me. God damn, bro. You're gonna make me punch you. God damn, you ugly old ass granny. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, because you guys love it very fucking much, then don't do anything. Just watch it. Enjoy. Eat some of your fucking fat ass Cheerios like the fat motherfucker you are. And watch more, because, you know, it's not like you don't have anything else to do. If you're watching my content, then you got nothing else to do during this wonderful Christmas, quarantine 2020 day. So thank you. And have a good night.
We're doing goodbye, anything not that. Oh, luxury. Cheetah ching, goodbye.
You're still here? Bro, I told you to fucking leave. Well, if you don't leave in the next, 2 seconds, you're big gay. Oh, I'd like to add.